Hello and welcome to Crossthreaded. We just got back from a week at the lake.
Where, strangely enough, they don't have internet.
No, but they do have cars that drive on the water.
Oh, honey, those are called boats.
Boats.
Say boat.
Boat? Oh, well, anyway, we're back now and just in time.
We were finally able to watch the most recent episode of Project Binky last night.
Yes. It was great fun as always. We love that show, but we found part of it a little confusing.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Here's the steely-eyed Nick Blackhurst explaining their material choice for a gas tank build.
So I suppose that brings us to the fairly obvious solution of aluminum. But instead, we're going to use aluminium, because that's what it's called.
Hogwash!
Here in America, we call element 13 aluminum, because that's what Noah Webster called it in his dictionary around 1828, and it's what the American Chemical Society called it in 1925.
Exactly. And it was also called aluminum by Sir Humphrey Davy, who was the first to realize that it existed, even if he didn't manage to isolate it. Still, how dare the English tell us how to speak English?
Honey, we need to focus. We have lots to talk about in this episode in any language. And we are going to start the Exocet.
The first thing that we need to do is to make sure that the motor has what it needs to run. We need three things: earth, wind, and fire.
Do you remember the 21st night of September?
When love was changing the mind of pretenders?
And chasing the clouds away?
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, good. Just checking.
We'd like to see 12.6 volts or so from this battery, but it's pretty clapped out, so it's only managing 12.47.
We'll throw the cheapo battery charger on it. That'll either help or make the battery explode.
Yeah, charge. Now, a little more work on the earth.
You can see here we had the ground for the battery just thrown temporarily onto a threaded post, but that won't do. It's time to find it a permanent home. Now let's check on that battery again. Looks like over 13 volts, which is probably a lie since it just came off the charger, but better than the 12.47 in any case.
Just in case the car decides to start, we need to get the exhaust out of the motor. Now, I'm not sure what would happen if we ran without the header on, but I doubt it would be good.
But as usual, there's a problem. And it once again revolves around our old friend, the header. As you can see, with the aluminum transmission cowl installed, the gigantic flange on the header has no room to be gigantic.
Honey, it's pronounced aluminium.
Aluminium, because that's what it's called.
There we go. Now we have plenty of room.
Now we're ready to see what happens when we turn the key.
We tried to start the car live on Twitch when we discovered that the spark plugs had a surprise for us.
All right, gang, here's what we're seeing. I don't know if you can see down in there, but watch this when I pull this plug. It's just lots of water, very wet.
We turned the engine over about 1,000,000 times trying to get the water all out. And we also put a fan on top of the block with the plugs out to help air out the cylinders.
While the plugs were out, we left them connected to the wires and turned the motor over so that we could see them sparking. So we knew we had spark.
So we know that we have spark now, and we think that we have gas, and we think we have air. So let's see.
And that's where things stayed for a couple of days. The car would turn over fine, and then when we stopped holding the key, it would make a bang so loud that I almost backfired my shorts each time. True.
Even though we could see that those plugs were sparking, they were a little scuzzy. And so... And after all of that, after fighting with the wiring,
Well, actually that happened before we replaced the plugs and wires, but it makes a much better narrative if we push it back to this point in the video.
right. That first time it ran for those few seconds, but we couldn't really get it to start reliably until we replaced the crappy plugs and wires. And here is what our first drive looked like. Dang.
Now, by the time we finally got it started, the battery was hanging on by a thread. And you can see in the video that the Forester's hood is up because we were using it to jump the Exocet.
But the good news is the Exocet runs and drives and, most importantly, stops. The gauges all work, and even the emergency brake works.
Yes, which is
Amazing.
surprising. So, let's have us a little progress report.
We threw the power steering into the Chattahoochee River. Well, not really. We just threw it away.
Yeah, the Chattahoochee has enough problems without that hunk of shit in it. We've handled the fuel, the water, and the electricity pixies are dancing away.
And we bled the brakes.
And next we just need to work on the exhaust.
Without an exhaust, our chopped header is just going to blast hot gas onto the transmission forever, and we don't want that.
Yeah. Also, the thing is pretty loud. I mean, without the exhaust, I was sure that our HOA was going to send us a strongly worded letter after Ruby Redline over here drove the car in the neighborhood without the exhaust on it.
Now, several episodes ago, we said we were going to cobble together an exhaust from the stock pipe and a muffler that we have laying around.
Yeah, and many of you pointed out correctly that there are plenty of companies like Enthusa Exhaust right here in Atlanta that could have done this job for us properly.
But this isn't a maximum effort race build. This is something that we're doing just to learn.
Yeah, exactly. So why pay a professional to do something right when you can spend that money on MIG wire instead and end up with an exhaust that looks like Frankenstein's monster's wing wang?
We think this exhaust is off a first-gen Miata. We got it for cheap from our friend David, the parts guy.
Yeah, and it's got all sorts of bends in it that we don't want. So I'm going to try to straighten it by cutting a wedge of steel out of the outside of the bend and then bending the pipe straight and welding it into place.
That was a multiple day process. It would have been a lot easier with some proper pipe and a lift, among other things.
Yeah, again, an exhaust shop could have done a much better job in a few hours, maybe even a few minutes, but I wanted to cobble this together this one time using pieces that I don't care about at all as a learning exercise.
For example, we learned that we ended up with the catalytic converter upside down.
Son of a monkey. It absolutely is.
Nice one. Now, in just a minute, for today's extra content, my daughter Dorothy will deliver her thoughts on the Exocet project so far.
Yes, incisive commentary, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to our current supporters on Patreon. Our patrons are huge to us. In the coming months, we're going to be doing more live work sessions on Twitch. Our username is Xthreaded, so find us there.
And of course, we would love to have you as a YouTube subscriber, and even more, we'd love to have your support on Patreon.
Check out our website, crossthreaded.us. Join us on the Facebook, the Tweeters, and the Instagrams. And thanks a huge amount to Bad Obsession Motorsports for letting us use a clip of their video.
See you next time.